I'm Bianca.
And I'm Grant.
And this is the Lake House Project.
So today we're going to be building the second floor platform that will connect the staircase starting over here from the first floor going up to the second floor, and that way you can turn once at the top of the staircase into this mezzanine area. And here's the design of what the second floor platform will look like. We're going to be using a lot of liquid nails at the joints, a lot of joist hangers, and long lag bolt and ledger lock screws in order to properly secure it to this joist here in the floor. And so there's also going to be a post here connecting it to the first floor to give it some added rigidity and structural support. So let's get started, let's do it.
The first thing we had to do was remove this decorative band board made of cedar to expose the floor joist beneath the mezzanine. After bringing in all of the boards, we were able to start cutting them down to their final lengths. In order to do this, I used the SketchUp file that I showed earlier in the video, which laid out all of my measurements, and I could just reference that to make sure that everything was cut to the proper dimensions. And here I'm using my DeWalt miter saw. This is a relatively new purchase and I've been really happy with it. I've really put it to the test, and as you can see, it has a variety of features, and I was able to cut these boards at a 45-degree angle with ease, and it has a large cut capacity which allows me to cut these full 2x10 boards all in one pass without having to flip the board over to cut the other side. And so if you want to look at maybe purchasing this saw or any of the other tools in this video, I'll link everything down in the description. I used my speed square here to make sure that these 45-degree cuts remained perfectly in line with one another. After finishing all of my cuts, I noticed that the newer lumber that I purchased was 9¼ inches wide versus the old lumber of the mezzanine was just under 9 inches. So I had to take all of my pieces outside and cut them down on the circular saw by about 3/8 of an inch so that the new platform would be the same height as the mezzanine that's currently in place. Once all of our lumber was cut down to its final dimensions, we were able to assemble what the platform will look like that mirrors that SketchUp file from earlier. And to start with the assembly, I decided to start with the double headers by gluing them together with liquid nails and then screwing them together to add some additional support.
Alright, so this is what the platform is going to look like. I just finished up gluing and screwing all of the double joists, so this one, this one, this one, and the one closest to the camera there. And now I'm going to construct it and kind of put it together, and I bought a bunch of Simpson tie hangers to strengthen this up, as it's going to be supporting a lot of weight with the staircase. We have some single joist hangers, some double joist hangers, and then also some corner braces as well. So that'll just really tie it together. I also have some lag bolts to mount this board here into the header, as well as some GRK structural fasteners to even strengthen more of the boards out here. Now this might be a bit overkill, however, I'd rather be a little too strong than not strong enough when it comes to a staircase with this thing kind of hanging over everybody. So the idea is to build it here first on the level floor and then kind of raise it up. And I might wait to install these middle pieces until after it's up there to save a little bit of weight. The other option is to install this header up there first and kind of build off of that. However, I feel like it's going to be a lot more difficult than building it in place here on the ground. So we're going to try that method and see how it goes. All right, let's get to it.
In order to add rigidity to the platform, I used these Simpson strong tie corner braces with structural screws, and I also used liquid nails here too. And it's important that we get this nice and perfectly square, so I used wedges where necessary to make sure that everything lined up very nicely. We now have the main square of the platform complete, and now it's on to installing this angled brace. To prevent any splitting of the wood, I pre-drilled with a drill and then added liquid nails to install it, and I used some long 6-inch GRK structural fasteners to attach it, and this was plenty strong.
Hey there. So one of the next things that we're going to be doing is taking this platform that Grant built and hoisting it up about 10 feet in the air. And so I curiously asked, what do we think it weighs? And so we're just taking a shot in the dark. So we gave ourselves a little bit of a clue. we weighed this one board, which is, we don't even know how long it is, but it looks to be about a foot, and it weighs 4 pounds. So we now have taken that information and all estimated what we think this platform without the top on it, just as it is, weighs before we hoist it up there. So we're about to weigh it and see what it weighs. My guess is, I figure it's about 132, but then adding in the metal plates, the screws, and some level of contingency, my guess is 140.
I guessed 128, but then add in the metal brackets and screws. I'm gonna say 133.
And I calculated 132, but 34 is my lucky number, so I'm guessing 134. So let's see.
Whoa! Get the camera on that. So, Mary Therese is the winner.
We all guessed over though.
We all guessed over, but here's the solution. So afterwards, I went and actually measured the
That's
board.
over a foot.
That was over a foot. It was about 14 and a half inches. So I think we just overestimated a little bit. We figured it was about 12 inches. So I think that's where Grant and I were off. That's our excuse anyway.
Now let's hoist it.
So the platform is going to be screwed into this header here, but it's just a single joist. So we're going to be adding in a double 2x8 header right behind it to strengthen it up and give more meat for the platform to be screwed into. So let's go ahead and do that.
And if you can't get enough of this DIY content, we also have a TikTok and Instagram at Golden Key Design for more real-time updates. Now back to the video. Alright, so we're getting ready to put up the platform up to here. And what's key is that it's the right distance for the stairs. And so it needs to be basically perfectly in line with this right edge of this header. So what I set up was a laser, and it's a bit hard to see. You can kind of see it back there, but the line continues right there, and I have it perfectly in line with this header. And so then now I can look up here. Again, it's a little bit tough to see, but the line is about right here, and it goes up there just to the left of that crack. And so now I know exactly where I need to cut away this wood here, so for the platform can attach directly to this board. So I'll cut away the drywall and this wood behind here. And now I have the exact measurement I need. So laser levels come really in handy. If you guys are enjoying the video so far, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a like, as it definitely helps the YouTube algorithm and allows me to reach a bigger audience. And also, if you haven't already, please subscribe. We have new DIY videos every single Saturday, and you'll be able to stay up to date on our progress on this lake house. We got lots more content coming your way, so stay tuned. Alright, so I got my laser set up again, and again it's just aligned with this right edge of the header. And if we go up here, I just cut that out, and as you can see, that laser line is right on the edge there. So we can just push the platform all the way up against and butt it up against here, and we know it's at the right distance across the header. With the glue now dry, we were able to cut off the excess part of the shims from the platform, and then we installed this ledger board on the underside of where we will be installing the platform, and this will give us something to rest the platform on since it's a little bit heavy. And here we used rope to hoist it up onto the mezzanine with the help of my parents and some ladders, and we eventually got it. This rope has been coming in really handy with all these large objects that we're moving around. We then flipped it over, and as you can see, we dropped it onto the ledger board and then slid it to the right to butt it up against that fresh cut that we made into the cedar, with a 2x6 supporting the far side. Okay, so now we have the platform kind of in place. It's resting on this board here. I have 2 lag bolts already in. We're going to be putting in a total of 10. And we're going to be putting in kind of a 3x2 grid on this board here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to pre-drill and then put in the lag bolts with a big washer. And we have basically 4 2x10s that it's going through. So it's a lot of meat for it to grab onto, and I think it should be super solid. Okay, so now that we drilled our holes, we're gonna come back. These are 6-inch lag bolts, and I have a pretty big, like 1.5-inch washer to give it some clamping pressure. And we have a nice impact driver to drill these in. You can use a ratchet if you need to, but it takes a while, so this helps a lot. So let's go ahead and do this. We quickly realized that the drill was just not powerful enough, so we had to revert to manually ratcheting it, but it was a good workout.
All right, so we put in the first 5, which is this first row. Now we're gonna put in the additional 5, which is just directly above it. And this should be plenty strong to support the landing. Okay, so now that the platform is fully installed, we put in 10 lag bolts as you saw, and then we just put in 3 structural screws right here to tie in this corner. We can now take out this ledger board that was used to kind of get the platform into place. So I'm just going to take out these screws, pull this off, and then I'm assuming the 10 lag bolts we put in will be plenty strong to hold this end up. Still standing. All right, so now that we took out the ledger board, we're just going to do a quick strength test. This isn't technically engineered by anyone, and it hasn't been stress tested through like a FEA analysis or anything, but I think a pull-up or 2 will do. So far, so good. I think it's structurally sound. Right, Olive? All right, so now that we have the main structure in place, we're gonna be putting in 2 boards in the middle of this square here, and I have those already cut here, and we're gonna be attaching them with some joist hangers, and to make sure that these don't protrude beneath the surface like this, and if we put like drywall on, they might cause it to like bubble up. I cut away a little bit here so that when we put it on, it sits flush with the rest of the board. Hey folks. So now we're going to be putting in these beams as I just said. We got some Simpson strong tie screws, and I marked it out so that they're perfectly spaced in the middle of here. We have 2 of them, so each one is the same distance. And here's the board here, and we're going to put them in this direction. And yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's try that in. All right, so now to reinforce this double joist into the header, we have a double joist hanger here. So it'll go like so. And similar to how we did these ones over here, we are going to notch out a little bit right here so that this joist hanger doesn't sit proud of the surface, but rather sits flush with the surface, so that when we drywall this or whatever ceiling we end up putting, this won't protrude it a little bit or create a bulge right here. So the easiest thing to do that with, since it's already installed, is using this multi-tool I just picked up. So we'll just shave off maybe 1/8 of an inch of wood, just a little bit, just so that it can slide up a little bit extra. And then we'll screw this in, and we're almost done with the platform. Let's get to it. All right, so now that sits flush. Now we'll just put some screws in.
We then added this final angled brace, and this was not all that structural, but mainly put in to support the subfloor that will eventually go on top. Speak of the devil! So anyway, this subfloor, rather than trying to measure the exact dimensions of the platform, we decided just to raise up a full sheet up there and just line it up and just draw with the pencil from the underside where we need to cut it, lower it back down, and then went outside to make those cuts. And this is actually a super accurate way of cutting things without having to use a measuring tape. Once it was cut, we brought it back inside, and then we hoisted it back up top, albeit it was a little bit lighter this time. And what do you know? It was a perfect fit.
Whoa. Creep? I mean, it's fine.
To install the subfloor, we added liquid nails specific for subfloor use, and then screwed in some structural screws every 8 inches or so. And then it was finally good to go. I was a little nervous, but I was surprisingly confident on how stable it was, and I'm very confident now in the structural integrity of this, so no worries moving forward. And stay tuned next week as we got a couple more platforms to build before the staircase arrives, so stay tuned as we got another video for you next Saturday. And as always, thanks for watching, and happy building. See you next week.